A very warm welcome to all the participants of this very interesting webinar. Hello, everyone. This is Shravan Charya. I'm the founder of socioladder Foundation. And I'm here. I'm joining you from Libre of Open Skies. And it's a beautiful evening here in Chennai, where I'm currently kind of in a lockdown kind of situation, but I'm safely in the terrace of my house. So, well, today's topic concerns all of us. And before that, let me just introduce SustainEverse as an organization. I think most of you would have read up about SustainEverse. SustainEverse was born out of two very powerful thoughts from two very interesting organizations. One is the Global Compact Network India, which is born out of the United Nations Global Compact, the custodian of the Sustainable Development Goals. The 17 Sustainable Development Goals take so much of importance in the times that we live in today in terms of creating a sustainable world for ourselves. And it was born out of the partnership with socioladder Foundation, a foundation that is originally founded to create wealth and income equity in the world, so that we can live in a world where there is equilibrium of all resources, not just human resources, but all resources that we are endowed by the great Almighty. So SustainEverse was born in December last year, and we've been having a series of great interactions. The reason for the creation of SustainEverse is so that all participants of sustainability, sustainable forces, people who are interested to preserve the Sustainable Development Goals and achieve them by 2030, corporates, individuals, foundations, charities, organizations, and also government. We've all come together to ensure that we make this sustainability network a grand success. Without much ado, my special thanks and acknowledgement to the Global Compact Network India, the GCNI. Yeah, so all thanks to the Global Compact Network, the United Nations Global Compact Network India, for their support in making this happen. Now, let me just set a little bit of context. At the beginning of the pandemic, there was a great rush of positive emotions that, oh, wow, great, now everyone's in the family and everyone's coming together and everyone's going to be at home. There's going to be more interaction. They've got more spike in the emotion getting into the pandemic. But as things gotten into the four walls, things started emerging in terms of how do I manage the needs of parenting? How do I manage the, being in the same place? Challenges that directly are related to SDG number 4, the, mental health and well-being. And as a result, we thought it was very important for us to do a webinar on descriptive guidance, but at least to kind of the parents when they deal with kids from across the age spectrum. So today's webinar is not particularly aimed at teenage kids or people in a particular age group, but we're going to cut across. It's going to be more generic. We've got experts on the panel to discuss about the practical issues that they're facing. We've got a celebrity mom, we've got a celebrity dad. We've also got Preeti Manohar on the panel. She's had 16 years of dealing with a variety of issues coming from parents from different backgrounds and different cultural backgrounds and situations. So this webinar would be a culmination of a rich knowledge base that we would like to share for all the participants. And it's my pleasure to welcome on board the panelists today, Neha Jalan, and I would let Rashika introduce her to all of you, Preeti Manohar, and Mr. Karan Mehra. So over to you, Rashika, to go ahead and introduce them to all the participants, and then we can set the ball rolling for the webinar. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ravan. Thanks a lot. Welcome, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. I would like to introduce our panelists, and I won't take too long. You already know all of them. We have Ms. Preeti Manohar, who is a counselor and a mental health professional. She has over 16 years of experience and talks of some very interesting real case studies. And, there's so much we can learn from her, whether you're a parent or not, and from every perspective, you'll hear a lot more about it in the session. We have Miss Neha Jalan joining us, who's a mom blogger and a lifestyle influencer, and she feels very close towards the topic. She is very passionate about this topic, and she has a lot to share, and we'll hear a very interesting perspective from her as well. We also have Mr. Karan Mehra, who needs no introduction. He's been a television sweetheart for I don't know how many years now. He has a huge following, and he is television's favorite boy. He's like the ideal guy, the ideal man, everyone's been looking up to. And I almost heard of mothers wanting, their son-in-laws to be like Karan Mehra. So that's the kind of impression he has, so most well known for his long-running show Ye Rishta Kya Kehlata Hai on Star Plus, and then thereafter many other achievements. He's been on Big Boss, and he's also the co-founder of Uni Dad, which is a community of dads. And I don't want to take any more time. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us, and over to all of you.
Hi, everyone. The last couple of months have been pretty stressful for all. We have been going through an unimaginable magnitude of change these last few months. It's been epic, and it's not been easy. And be it lifestyle changes, job insecurity, financial issues, adjusting to work from home, dealing with the lockdown, spending time in the four walls of the house, no outings, no malls, no movies, no gym. It's not been easy. And as Shravan was mentioning, the initial few weeks or months was, what we call the honeymoon phase, where everybody was like, finally getting a break, and I'm going to rediscover myself, and I'm going to catch up on my reading and catching up on my hobbies. And we were all, the moms and even the dads busy baking and putting up posts and getting likes, and everything was hunky-dory. But as it kind of extended, and as what we would say the honeymoon phase started ending, it started getting stressful, because it just kept going on and on and on and on and on. And now I think everybody has reached a stage where there's a lot of frustration, and there's a lot of negativity which has set in, and it's becoming difficult for all. The point I would probably like to stress here, very importantly, is that it's not just been stressful for adults, it's been very stressful for children as well. Like, I have a lot of parents who ask me, what is the stress they're having? I mean, they're enjoying, they're not going to school. And what exactly is the reason that, they are so stressed? Because a lot of them are reaching out now for counseling sessions. A lot of them are expressing the need to talk to a therapist. And so a lot of parents are like, why does she need to talk to a therapist? I mean, what is the problem here? I want to stress that, see, change is not easy for anyone. Adults, it's been 3-4 months, and we are still having issues dealing, coping, and finding ways, to come to terms with what's happening around us, because every aspect of our life, nothing has been unaffected. Every aspect of our life has undergone some changes, and it's been very difficult to deal with it. And trust me, the same goes for children as well. Even the younger ones. I mean, I have, the other day, I had a first standard child's parent. She reached out to me saying that, she's going through some issues, and she's having mood swings. And what was that child's problem was, it was her birthday, and she was so disappointed on having this virtual birthday with this cake cutting and all her friends, it was a Zoom kind of thing happening, and there were no gifts, and it was a very traumatic thing for her, and she couldn't come to terms with it. And she became very moody during the party, and then it just became worse. And the next few days, there were issues with, not eating, cranky, crying. So, see, at that level, it's a disappointment for a kid. I mean, you may say it's just a birthday party, but for a kid, a birthday party is a big deal, and suddenly you're looking into a screen and you're seeing your other friends on screen, and you're not able to have that interaction. So even if it's, say, a first grader or, second, third standard child, I mean, it is stress for them. It has not been easy for them. And when you move on to probably the higher the older children, of course, some of them are enjoying the fact that, okay, there's no school happening, but you also need to understand that school is an outlet. It's a stress buster for many children. It's the place where they interact with friends, where they talk about issues they are going through in the house, or if something is bothering them. It's the only source of outlet that many children have, and now suddenly that has come to a standstill. The only interaction probably children have is through the mobile, and when the mobile interaction comes the next thing that parents start complaining, saying that the child is using the mobile all the time, and then the child says, what do you want me to do? That's the only way I can reach out to my friends. So there becomes an issue with confrontation between children and parents with regard to mobile usage. So we have a lot of them reaching out for sessions with regards to child is always on the mobile, and the child says, what do you want me to do? I need to catch up with my friends. I need to share what's going on with me. So it's not been easy. It's absolutely not been easy for children too. And if you see, you have working parents who are suddenly at home all the time. So that brings its own set of issues. As in, I have a lot of children who reach out to me saying that, all these days they would go to work in the morning and come back late at night. Most of the time I would already be asleep. And, now they're at home all the time. And, I feel like, I'm under a microscope because they are, monitoring my every move, what I'm doing, who I'm talking with, how I'm sitting. And it's getting too much for me to handle. Tell them to back off, is what children say. And of course, from the parents' perspective, I totally agree. They say, ma'am, I know, I have not been around, but it's finally an opportunity for me also to get, some time to see what's happening in the house. And a lot of parents are reaching out saying that they are very shocked when they see how the child is actually spending the time, or observing, they say, she lies down on the bed and she studies, and the child tells me that, ma'am, this was how I always studied. Only when I lie down on the bed, I'm able to understand. And suddenly, mama is making such a big deal about it. And parents say that I overheard her conversation the other day and it was shocking, the kind of language that she uses. So we have a lot of parents and students reaching out for issues like this, depression, suicidal thoughts. Many of them, the adolescent, many of them are calling up with these kind of mental health issues. They're saying they're not able to take the stress. It's getting too much for me to handle. There is no me time. I feel suffocated in the house. So I just don't want to live anymore. So these are some of the kind of cases, or calls that we get. The number of children reaching out for therapy in the last couple of months has increased. The number of parents reaching out for therapy has also increased. So, of course, there are some funny stories to it too. Like Tamil Nadu recently announced that, board exams, everybody is going to pass. So there were some happy stories too. There were children who were like, yay, okay, I didn't study anything and I'm like, passed. And there are other kids who say that I wish the lockdown continues and who knows, maybe I'll graduate without having to write a single exam and stuff like that. But the point I'm trying to tell you all is that it's been stressful for all. And when I say all, I include children too, whether it's a 3-year-old or whether it's a 16-year-old, it's been stressful. All of us are going through a difficult time. I think we need to first acknowledge the fact, each one going through stress in their own way, but nobody is exempted from it. All of us are going through issues. So we need to first accept that.
First of all, thank you, everyone. I'm really honored to be here. And I hope that, through this session, we can throw some light into what is happening in our lives. And being a parent, and most of us on this webinar are, and we're facing different kinds of issues. We have kids of all different age groups. Mine are a 9-year-old and a 14-year-old who is a teenager, confused teenager, because, at this time they want to be out, they want to be with their friends, they want to be in school, they want to do all the madness, they want to be able to do what we grew up doing, and suddenly they are indoors. And without any warning, it was like one fine day they wake up and they have no school. They have virtual school, which they were really excited about to begin with. And I think a little bit of excitement still remains. because they don't really have to move around to do much. But I think in hindsight, they are kind of tired of just staring at the screen, not being able to have any physical interactions, also not being able to channelize their energies in the right way, not being able to go out and play a sport or just kick the football anywhere in the air, run around in the park, even actually greet and meet people the way they're used to meeting. And for me, and for every one of us, that's a huge challenge, because even when we see people, we want to go hug them or give them a nice greeting, but now it's all about social distancing. So this is the new normal that they're facing. And I think as a parent, I am a huge, military mom. At least I believe I was. Now all that is up in the air. It's changed. They kind of have a very strange timing to wake up and to sleep, when they had a very regimented time because they had to be up at a certain time to be at school, properly in their uniform, properly showered, well groomed. So all of that has been on a bit of a slack. It takes a lot of, lot of parenting to be able to look beyond that. But I've come to terms with it, and it's actually okay, because kids, as difficult it is for the kids, it's as hard for the parents as well. So I think we should give the parents that much, think that it's not as easy as we seem, because there's so many things that they're already not used to. Like, I mean, I'm used to a very clean house. I like everything in place, everything sorted, and suddenly I see things flying around. There's a cricket bat that's moving, there's a football that's flying in the air, there's all kinds of noise. It's all about getting used to. And I think that this pandemic has really, really taught us a lot. It has taught us to be patient. It has taught us to be, co-living, which we always do, but we have some time apart. But the last 3.5, 4 months has been so intense, wherein every move is kind of taken into account. Everything is heard, everything is spoken, which has been, quite out of the ordinary. We've had no time to actually have a proper routine where we can exercise and channelize some of that energy. And, I would say that it has been challenging, some good, some bad, some learning. So that's where I'm at. And over to you, Karan, because I'm sure you have a different story altogether.
Good evening, everyone, and thank you, Neha. Thank you, Preeti. I believe we are all in a very sync color today as well. I don't know how did that happen. So we are here for the webinar, wherein we will talk about such issues that are going around. And also, well, about me, I would just say that as everyone in the lockdown, we also go through a lot of stresses. We're not used to staying in the four walls of the house. Um, I think the plus sign is because we are active, there's so much to do that we could do still during this pandemic time, sitting at home doing, certain things on the digital platforms, talking to fans, keeping ourselves engaged. Otherwise, it gets very difficult, and we're very used to the fact of going out, shooting, and stuff like that. And I think it was a great, great help and a blessing that we had a 3-year-old at home, because क्या होता है कि जब छोटा बच्चा घर में होता है तो सारा ध्यान वही ले लेता है. So there were times that even I forgot about the actual world outside because we were so involved with Kavish, and I had no time to think about what's happening outside and also working. So I think it was a great blessing and to have him at this age, because it got a little easy for us because he was very used to the fact that mama papa are home, he's getting all the attention, nani is there, there's another housemaid as well. So 4-5 लोग हैं, खुश है, he's happy in his own space, doing things, remembering his school, but he's not bothered. He won't even say that he has to go out and stuff. Or do certain very simple things. जब हम छोटे होते थे तो बाहर खेलते थे या अपनी गैलरी से दूसरे को हम लोग आवाज देके बोलते थे कि हाय हाउ आर यू, क्या हो रहा है. ये सब तो बच्चे आजकल करते ही नहीं है. So this is what he was doing, standing in his gallery calling out to other children, or we would talk to our neighbors through gallery and say hi, what's up, what's happening, which never happens. We don't have time for all these things. So of course there were a lot of positive things that were happening, but of course the stress was already building up, whether it's financially, whether it's mentally, whether it's physically, to be scared about the safety of your family. Every time that I would go out for the essentials, I would have the thought in my mind that, you know, if by chance Corona comes to the house, I'm the only one who gets it back. So you have to feel like that responsible for doing something. And I should be like, I think the OCD in my life really helped me, but it was a great time to put it to use. But you have to be so extra careful to do things. And even now, it's not finished. So whenever we step out of the house, you have to be so careful about things and to do. So that's the other part. But coming back to the topics of depression or something that Preeti will tell us about, and we could have discussions with Neha and me, will kind of maybe ease out some structure that we could talk about today, wherein you know, what is happening with the toddlers, what's happening with children at a teenage age, and the issues that Preeti will put light on, because those those examples that I just had a little light off were so terrifying that I don't know what's going to happen by the time Kaush grows up, or what I have to be prepared for. So as a parent, I have to be very open-minded with the fact that there's going to be a lot of things thrown at me. I have to be ready to catch all those things. Otherwise, I'm going to be clean bowled, and the next generation is too smart for us. So yeah, over to you, Preeti. We can start our
Yes.
discussions.
Topic today was sustaining your child through the pandemic emotionally and mentally is the topic that we have chosen.
Yes.
The first thing probably here is what we need to understand is we need to work on interpersonal relationships at home, because that is the first step towards sustaining your child through this. Because unless the couple, as in the parents, are in a comfortable mind space, emotionally, relationship wise, they are not going to be in a position to help or guide the child. So individually also we are going through a lot of issues individually. I'm not talking about as a couple or as a husband, as a wife. Individually, each of us are going through our own fears, our own insecurities, our own issues of
actually, so.
dealing with this whole thing. And then when it comes to the couple, when it comes to the husband and wife, it's been a difficult phase, like 24 hours seeing each other all the time. Trust me, no matter how much you love each other, can get pretty stressful. Seeing somebody all the time in the house, hooked up in the four walls, that itself causes a lot of stress. And then as couples, you're dealing with people losing jobs, financial issues, uh, adjusting to work from home. And then you have both husband and wife working from home, so who's going to take care of the child, and who's going to do the chores around the house. So then you start having a little bit of issues among yourselves, a little bit of confrontation and things like that. And then you have the additional physical burden, which we cannot deny. I mean, let's face it, we have gotten used to having people doing stuff for us, and now suddenly we are washing our own vessels, and we are sweeping, mopping, cooking, cleaning, chopping vegetables and stuff like that. So that is an additional burden also, which you are dealing with as couples. And then when it comes to couples, you also have a lot of emotional baggage that we carry in a relationship. So it can be past issues, it can be issues you were facing through, in early marriage, disappointments, issues with in-laws and stuff like that. So what happens is these issues sometimes remain unresolved. And what I'm observing is, in normal circumstances, they keep resurfacing from time to time. But with the lockdown and stuff like that, because you are at home, because distractions are less, because you're always looking at each other and you keep getting reminded of all these issues, your mom did this, and your family did that, and you are having these squabbles and stuff like that. So everything gets highlighted more during this time. So couples start having their own friction. They start having a lot of disturbance. My suggestion to you is that we really need to put in enormous amounts of effort to first get our act together. I'm not saying you can solve all your issues. It's not possible. I mean, we have therapy which goes on for months and years to sort out marital issues. But we need to understand that now we have children, and we are responsible for them. And it's a scary world out there. Whatever is happening is scary for them. So as parents, we need to sort out things. I do not believe in temporary quick fixes, but situation has become such that I tell couples that, hey, look, if you're having some major issues, sit and talk it out. You can't keep having these screaming and yelling sessions, because that's affecting children too. So unless you have some bit of cordiality between the two of you, some amount of understanding, some amount of warmth, some amount of peace, you're not going to be able to help your child through this whole issue. You're going to pass on that negativity to the child. And trust me, your child is going through enough negativity without added negativity from your relationship issues. I have many children who have got in touch with me during the lockdown, because they are discovering that okay, their parents are in a bad marriage, and because all of you are in the same house, you're all rediscovering a lot of things about each other. So they call and they say that, oh my God, they just don't talk. They're always yelling and they're always fighting. And trust me, children are very smart. No matter how hush-hush you are and things like that, they figure out that something is going wrong. I mean, most of my examples may sound a little scary to you. I'm not being negative, but I'm a mental health professional and I deal with these issues on a day-to-day basis. So just about last week, I had a 6th grader who, just went into the bathroom and swallowed some cleaning liquid. And it was a mess. I mean, in normal circumstances itself, these things become messy. And now with COVID, rushing her to the hospital, and it was really bad. And then when we figured out what was happening, she was put into therapy and stuff like that. And she said, my parents are fighting all the time. I'm going through so much of issues and they don't seem to be worried about it. And they are yelling and shouting and, blaming each other. It's getting too difficult, very, very difficult for me. So the first thing that I would want to say is, if you want to sustain your child through the pandemic, I mean, you work as a team here, right? Husband and wife, you work as a team. So first you need to get your act together. You need to let ego, take a step back. A little compromise here, a little compromise there. Some amount of cordiality is required. It's like a doctor needs to be fit. If I have to treat my patients, if I'm coughing and having a fever or I'm physically unwell, there is no way I'm going to be able to treat any of my patients. So unless there is some positivity, unless there is some positive energy, unless there is a calm, cordial relationship at home between the parents themselves, between the husband and wife, you are not going to be in a position to help your child. So the first thing I would like to, stress here is that first get the interpersonal relationships in the house sorted out. Talk about it, discuss, okay, these are the things we can't deal with now, these are not priority. Few things which you can change, please work on it, do it. But you need to work together as a team, because it's very, very important for the child to have an amicable relationship in the house. See, home is the place where the child should want to go to. Okay, that's the go-to place for the child. And most cases, it's very unfortunate that what I noticed that nowadays with nuclear families and all the marital discord that we are finding, most children do not want to be in the house. They are like, I hear students who tell me that I extend my stay in the tuition class, or I extend my stay after my guitar class, because I just don't want to go back home and I don't want to hear them, fighting and stuff like that. So now with the pandemic, they don't have anywhere to go. They have to be there in the four walls of the house. And if parents are going to be squabbling and fighting and yelling and quarreling and blaming, you need to understand that the very place which should be giving them solace is going to be giving them a lot of stress and negativity. So as parents, I think it is our duty. First step, my suggestion, not even advice, my suggestion would be first work on the interpersonal skills, work together as a couple. Remember, you are a unit, there is a family there is a bond, and you have a responsibility. So get it right first between the two of you. Within limits, you're not going to sort out everything right away. But understanding the seriousness of the situation, you need to get a quick fix.
This is Shravan, and I just wanted to add to whatever Preeti was saying. I hope I'm audible. I think it'd be very interesting to hear the perspective from Karan, who's just kind of, dealing with a toddler, and also with all the paraphernalia that surrounds a celebrity, for example, and perspective, otherwise from a celebrity mom, but who's also having a teenager at home, right?
and how are they, really sorting out, whatever differences, for example, for the lack of a better word, or, I'm trying to mellow down the intensity of discord, but then bringing it down to indifferences in the common stuff that I asked you to get you, 2 kilos of Ashirwad atta, but you did not get that. You got me a different brand, and the guy who actually went to the market thinks, no, Ashirwad is not there anymore during the pandemic. What do you want me to do? So, and these are small nitty gritties. So I'm just bringing it down a few multiple levels down to banal level, where how do you each one of you, because these are like practical insights that Preeti was more, she was talking more about CBMs, confidence building measures, to bring the overall noise levels down in the family. So why don't we hear from Karan, and how would that how do you cope with this, and in the context of what you said?
Of course, I really kind of take care of such things, what Preeti has been talking about. The harmony between two people, especially the couple, needs to be maintained in the house, which is very important. And also with Kavish, I think we have been very careful about that fact. At times, we are humans as well, so it happens. I wouldn't say it doesn't happen. It happens. We have our difference of opinions. We are very opposite, but then we are very compatible in a way, and then we have a common bridge that we both need to come in. So I'm very glad that I'm known for my patience. वैसे भी कहते हैं शादी के बाद पेशेंस तो आ ही जाती है, बट मेरे में पहले से ही थी, so that kind of really helped me. And so you need to build. um, Marriage also kind of goes through a lot of stuff. There are various stages. You need to constantly put those efforts to kind of keep building it. After having a child, it totally changes as well. The chemistry, the kind of involvement that two people have, we're not able to give each other that much time as before. One of us has to be with the child at times, or we're taking turns of doing this. The moment that when you said the Ashirwad, so it's good that I used to do all these house chores before as well, so it really helped me. So there were no issues like that. So I do go get that stuff, take a list, I prepare it. I ask Nisha, I ask my mother-in-law, what do you need? Just tell me, and I'll get extra stuff and just keep it, so that I'm like, even if something kind of is not there at the right time, I still have a backup. So a lot of things like that, wherein you just pre-plan, you just kind of make it easy for everybody. If the house chores need to be done, we do it ourselves. So we were lucky that for the first initial months we had somebody who was doing all that stuff for us, but then she moved out. But that didn't kind of stop us, because we have a child, we have a dog at home, so we need to keep it clean, we need to keep it hygienic. So I get up in the morning, I do the grooming and sweeping, and then Nisha does the utensils, then mommy's cooking, then we keep taking turns, we're cleaning again, we're doing all the house chores that we need to. And and we need to give time to Kavish as well, because no matter what, he has a set routine. So according to us getting up together at 8:30 in the morning at times, or 8 o'clock, the clock starts ticking. So he gets up, he needs to play. He needs to play, then he needs to be fed. He needs to be fed, then he has his online class. He has his online class, then he kind of has his little screen time where he can sit, he can do something, or he can eat, or he can just chill for half an hour. And then that gives us time to go ahead, and all of us are like, bhago, bhago, jaldi se khana kha lo, bachcha khana kha raha hai. So it's the only time that we have. Come on, let's go, let's go, let's go. And we are looking at each other. Okay, bari bari. Okay, you can go sit with him. So that's what we need to do, and we are still playing. So if I'm here at the webinar, Nisha is there with him right now, with the nanny, that we were lucky that came back again after almost 3 months. So you have to do all those permutation combinations, of course, with the child. And we try and not do anything in front of Kavish, of course, even if we have a difference of opinion. That's very important. At times it goes off. वो भी हो जाता है, फिर हम लोग सोचते हैं अरे यार उसके सामने नहीं, मतलब करना है तो वो अलग से कर लो, बट कभी कभी हो जाता है. It happens, it's very impulsive. It kind of happens when I'm on a call, maybe I'm stressed because of something, and there's another heat wave coming from the other end, and you don't want it at that point of time. So a lot of difficult situations have happened also in the lockdown. I have lost two very dear relatives of mine. I lost my dadi on the 19th. I couldn't go to Delhi. I lost her younger sister in the month of April. Again, I couldn't go and see her also. So it's been a very difficult time, and I understand losing your loved ones, pressure, financial pressure, people calling you, sir, paisa kamane wala hai. हमारा पैसा कब आएगा. And you are waiting, you're calling people, sir, when is my money going to come to me so I can pay people? So there's a lot of stress, and especially आप अकेले होते हो, this is different stress. When you're married, it's different. And when you have a child, it's totally different. So you have to be so prepared as a man, what you go through. Of course, there's so many things that you just can't talk to everybody. Okay, maybe your wife knows about it, she has her own stress, but the exact stress that you take can also not be transferred. So you go through something, there's another mental pressure. You have to stay positive as well. You have a beautiful smile doesn't mean that everything else is okay. But there's a lot going on behind every face. There's a lot going on inside of everybody that people don't have time to appreciate or even sit down and look out for कि भैया, what do you have to say, let us listen to you. तो ऐसा होता नहीं है, बहुत मुश्किल होता है, and in today's time it is very difficult. I believe those times were different. आज the kind of cases that Preeti must be seeing has, of course, increased many folds. Uh, of course, because of the lockdown. But of course, the situation has changed so much around us. The world that we live in is so disconnected with the actual physical beings that are there in front of us, or we could talk to our parents, or we could talk to our friends or our brothers, sisters, or get some good suggestions. So good suggestions तो आप भूल जाओ कि अगर वो कभी हो भी सकता है, because there's just everybody has their own ideas that they're throwing at you, and if you grasp it in the right way or the wrong way, it's up to you. और आजकल सही नसीहत देने वाले लोग भी इतने हैं नहीं. So you're just left alone to kind of explore. So many things that you need to be prepared for, especially for your child, which is just a toddler growing up, and we have to circle a lot of things around him so that it's safer and an environment that is good for him to kind of bring him up in. So we're very protective about that fact. We put in a lot of effort to kind of make that environment for him. There's a lot of study that Nisha does. And I think we both have got into this space of parenting, and me opening up the Unidad thing, which is one of the first communities for dads where we're educating dads, which has never happened before, all over the world, that come together, learn from each other, don't shy away from things that you can't change diapers, aisa nahi hota hai, you can't do this for your child, aisa nahi hota hai. I have done it in public where people are clicking pictures. Sir, आप diaper बदलते हो? मैंने कहा तो क्या वो मेरा ही बच्चा है पड़ोसी का है? So a lot of things like that. The thought process is very different for everyone. The way they perceive you, what you could do as a man, is also very different. So I would tell them, I said, why can't I do it? Of course, it's my child. I would love to do it. I did not work for the first initial year, so I could give time to Kavish. I could be with him to understand and do everything with him. So I could tell him that I have been with you when you needed me the most. Tomorrow he would grow up. I would be working. We won't have that much time, which is very practical. And to be honest, it will happen. But at least 3 years, I can say, yes, I have been with him. मतलब मैंने 1 साल का सोचा था, but अभी 3 साल तक मैं हूँ. I'm operating from home mostly, but I'm happy about the fact that I've been able to do that. And if I was not able to do that, my wife would have a tough time doing this alone. So as a support system, both of them could do it. If 2 people are responsible for bringing a child, I think it's our responsibility to shoulder the responsibilities together as well of bringing him up or her. So that's what we have done. And so this is what I have to do. Yeah.
Awesome, Karan. Quite a few interesting takeaways. One of them being that kind of rang a bell in my mind is to kind of not carry on the proceedings of indifference in front of the kid or in front of the child. Yes. But I think the narrative completely changes when you have a teenager at home, and and I want to know how would Neha deal with, and I probably think the teenage kid would want to actually proactively get involved in kind of either raping the father or the mother to find a solution for the discussion or the proceedings that's going on. So over to you. What exactly are your thoughts? And then I'll come back to you, Preeti, in terms of figuring out what would be the ideal way in which this could be articulated in that kind of a situation. And I think whatever we're talking today are very fundamentals of being in a family unit. And I think it would benefit all the participants out there in relation to, and also in relation to both SDGs, SDG 4, which is quality education, because that's the next topic when now everything's gone online. And I think that kind of complicates the goalpost. For example, both the parents, right? In terms of how feelings. So, over to you. We'd like to hear from you the teenage experience. The kids are having teenage kids, and yeah.
Thanks, Shravan and Karan. A great insight because I think I've been through that phase and twice over. So yes, kudos to you. It takes a lot. But having said that, I actually love spending time with the kids. And what we did through the pandemic is we did something really fun, which actually helped us through very in a systematic way, because again, I'm a very I like things in a very systematic way. So what we decided is we're going to have certain times of the house where we're going to use certain spaces to do certain things, and we're going to regulate that so that we each respect each person's space. So supposing there was a study, so if he has certain hours of school, so the study is used by him, so then we actually give him that space to use that to do what he has to do. We also decided that we're going to eat all our meals together. So that's the time when we share how was his day in school, even though it was virtual school, what were the things that he faced. And apart from that, again, talking about what are the challenges he's facing, maybe with tech or, some kind of issues that he doesn't understand in school between both the kids. And then again, we would disperse into our own spaces where at least we would get some time to have our own thoughts, do our own work. To both my kids have been my cameraman, my stunt man, every man in this pandemic, where I've been like, oh, I need to take a picture, and can you stand with the light, and can you stand with the torch, and can you stand with the script? So that's happened as well, and I've tried to involve them where I can, given them some credit, and of course they've enjoyed it, they've bickered about it. But I said, hey, if you want me to help you out, you need to help me out as well. How am I going to put out stuff without you contributing to it? So that's been really fun and interesting, because some of it has been wild and some of it has been actually a really nice learning curve, where I've actually learned a lot of technologically, amazing things which I was so challenged with. I mean, for example, this webinar, I just almost lost screen time because we had a certain screen time which I gave to my son, and I'm on his iPad. And now there's no compensating them. Like, you get this much screen time, now you decide. So there's no back and forth where he argues with us, where he doesn't argue with me. Of course, we have certain barters when he does a little favor for me and I give him extra PS time or extra time to use on the thing. But this works really well for me, because I feel like every day they don't have to ask you the same question. Mama, can I please use the iPad? Or Dad, can we please use it? We're like, okay, you have so many hours. Now you decide. You want to use it in the morning, you want to use it in the afternoon, you want to use it in the evening. And after that, the screen time just disappears. So after that, there's no talking about it. And they've kind of gotten into that routine, which has really helped me. Also, giving space to each other has really helped. Also, knowing that, we need our space as much. I mean, they need their space as much as we need our space. I feel as individuals, whether they are children or older, they really, really need space. So we also have an hour when it's your time, when no one speaks to anyone in the house. Everyone does what they want to do. And if there's a question, then there's a text message, which can be replied to after a while. So I think those things has really helped me through this pandemic. And of course, the energy that the boys have at 14 and 9 is insane. One walks around with headphones and one walks around with a bat and all kinds of things. So I've kind of turned a blind eye to it. But yeah, it's interesting, and that's how I've coped. So I hope that gives you a little bit of perspective as to how my life has been through that.
Sure, Neha. I mean, thanks for sharing those insights. But really, Preeti, interpersonal relationship, is a very key topic, and I thought it should be taught in, if not universities, because everyone after university gets into a job. That's a definitive, next course of action. But what they don't teach in the university is they are going to get into a wedlock. And should there be formal education that teaches people about interpersonal relationship and the way it governs? Because 12 hours, like half of your day is spent dealing with interpersonal relationships at home. And how could that be more healthy? And how could that create well-being and ensure that there is harmony? Because there are a lot of victims of lack of knowledge, and that could include myself, for example, and have, gone different directions as a result, right? So what are your thoughts, Preeti?
See, I think talking about this, see, times are changing. Like the number of patients approaching me for, say, pre-marriage counseling earlier was something unheard of. Like people would match horoscopes and stuff like that, and families would meet and marriages would be discussed and stuff like that. But marriage is not just about matching horoscopes. It's about two individuals, two very opposite individuals in terms of their childhood, their thought processes, their personality. When they come together, it can be pretty challenging. So we have a lot of people nowadays approaching me. I have a lot of sessions on pre-marriage counseling where, according to me, you need to know what you're getting into before you get into a marriage. I mean, say something as simple as, what's your idea of a weekend? Probably the guy would say that I'd like to chill, with a beer and just watch a football match. And the girl would say, no, that I've been in the house the whole week. So, I need to go out and I need to go to the mall and I need to do shopping. Something as simple as this can end up sparking off a marital discord. What is your idea of romance? What is your idea of family? I mean, so many things which need to be discussed, before you get into this huge commitment of marriage. And then it becomes even more huge, because then you end up bringing a baby into the world, and which can get affected. So yeah, pre-marriage counseling, this topic should be discussed, what marriage is all about. It's not just about horoscopes, families getting together. It's about two individuals compromising, discussing, to know that, okay, is there a common ground? So very, very important. And I can tell you that a lot of people nowadays approach for pre-marriage counseling. I've had a lot of them who have even decided to call off the wedding after coming in for pre-marriage counseling, where they say that we didn't know that all these things were involved, and I actually didn't know that this is what she felt about a career, or I didn't know that, for him, staying with his parents or visiting his parents and, keeping in touch with them was so important to him. And simple things like this can end up, causing a lot of marital discord. So these things are sorted out. So yeah, counseling, getting to know what you're getting into before a marriage is very, very important. Probably, Shravan, the next topic broadly I would like to cover is in terms of academics and these online classes which are going on. Talking about academics and the Indian scenario, I can just go on and on and on and on and on, because you know how it works in our society. Everybody has to be an engineer, everybody has to be a doctor, everybody has to pass out from a premier institute. There is so much of importance to academics, overwhelming pressure, overwhelming burden. I wanted to be a doctor, I couldn't be a doctor, so my son is going to become a doctor. So these are things that we have always been dealing with. Your child may not want to become a doctor, your child may want to become a chef, your child may want to get into theater, your child may have his own ambitions. But parents are also under a lot of pressure, because their son got into this prestigious institute, and their daughter is doing this course. So we give a lot of importance to academics, we put so much of pressure on them. So, and we do not respect what the child wants. Does the child like the subject? Does the child want to do engineering? I have a case where a mom decided that her daughter should go into medicine. And she decided what was the subspecialty also. She said she will have to do her MBBS, and then she will have to do dermatology. And in dermatology, she will have to, specialize in cosmetology. And I have already, set up a place for her. And when I had a session with the child, and she was not interested in medicine at all. She said, Auntie, that's not my cup of tea at all. So pressure, academics, it's something that we are dealing with. I think, Shravan, you and your team should, create another complete segment where we should talk about it in detail, reduce the kind of burden that we are putting on our children academically to achieve. Coming back to our topic with the pandemic and stuff like that, I would just like to touch upon these online classes which are going on. Everybody is doing everything online, and oh my God, how many classes are you, enrolling your child for? So common complaints will be, ma'am, I've spent so much of money, and I put off a chemistry class, and then physics class, and that class, and this class. See, first and foremost, you need to understand it's not easy to look into a screen. Okay. Sitting in a classroom itself is hard enough for children. And here you're looking into a screen, there is no interaction. It's not easy. To give you my own example, say I'm a therapist, okay? And in 16 years of my profession, I've always had a lot of patients who've said, ma'am, can you do an online session? Can you do a phone session? And I've always been like, no, I need to have a face-to-face interaction. For me, that is very important in my line of profession for diagnosis in time. Like, I need to see the body language. I need to look you in the eye. I need to get that vibe from you and stuff like that. But now suddenly it has reached a situation where all my sessions are happening, via the phone, or it's a video session or a phone session. And trust me, it's not been easy for me to, deal with this change. I've had to fine tune my skill techniques to cope with this. So it's not been easy for me myself. So with children, you need to understand that this concept of online classes is not easy. You have to give them some time to adjust to it. You cannot push them with so much of pressure. It's like I was telling a mom the other day. I said she was complaining that, he's not concentrating on the online classes, because from time to time she will open the door and she will check to see, is he concentrating, is he looking? And then she'll have these little notes from the back where she will say, ask this question, or, why are you not doing this? And she was so upset. She said, so much of money we have spent and he's looking blank. And the child tells me that halfway through the class, I actually zone out. I don't even know what's going on, because it's like really getting too much for me. So I was trying to tell the mother, I said, understand that it's not easy for you. And then she said, how so? So much of money we have spent. He's sitting in one AC room. What is his problem to look into the screen and interact? And then I asked her, I said, tomorrow if I told you, you need to cook, but you know what? You will not be able to go into the kitchen anymore. There's going to be a robo there who's going to do the cooking. And you'll have to type in the instructions, okay? Not even give an audio command. You'll have to sit there and it's something new for you. You're going to type in on a keyboard to the robot that enter the kitchen, and on the left side you will find the onion rack, and on the right side you'll find the chopping board. Chop it, and that is the area where I keep the spices. Pick up the kadai, put this much of oil. Everything you need to type and give instructions. How would you deal with it? Something as simple as making a dal roti, trust me, would become such a stressful thing, because it's something new to you, right? Because you have to type stuff and you're giving instructions. It's the same way. It's the same way for children with online classes. So I would also request all of you, see, the concept most parents have, the fear is they're not attending school. So I have to keep them engaged. They cannot have free time. I mean, if they were in school by now, they will be attending that class and this class. So it's back to back to back to back. But see, they were also having free time. Even from school, if they were attending tuition, they had the travel time, right? Or they had the time where they'll have the 10 minutes of interaction with other friends where they just joke about something. Or say if the mother was picking up the child from school and taking the child to another tuition. So it would involve a ride on the bike or a ride in the car. It would give some amount of some break to the child, and that's not happening here. It's just back to back to back to back classes. It's not easy. We need to understand that it is very, very stressful for children. It's humongous. And the other day I was shocked to find out that they are putting them for dance classes, online classes and stuff like that. And I'm like, see, I'm not against it. Online classes may become the norm of the future. I don't know. If somebody had told me 1 month back that you are going to counsel, online, I'm going to be like, are you kidding me? That's not going to happen. So yeah, this pandemic also has taught me that, okay, you never know.
Really, I have a question.
Sorry?
I have a little question. I said, with the examples that you're giving, it seems mostly like the therapy is needed by the parents more than the children.
True.
Because the kind of impact that this has had on the psychology of parents is more scary than what the children are going through. I think they are actually handling it much better in a space wherein the parents are going a little ballistic about the fact that, like I had a lot of people, Kavish is just a toddler, so he goes to a playgroup, and he just had kind of graduated into nursery maybe, and he was supposed to start, which did not happen. But the kind of stress that everybody is going through, uska kya kare, ye kare, wo kare, he has only one online thing wherein he is just with his school friends, where they're just chilling, dancing, drawing, whoever is doing whatever they want to do. So it's just like a chill class. There's nothing. So if they write, they write. If they paint, they paint. If they sing, they sing. If they dance, they dance. So it's just finished. It's just that much. मैं कहा कि चलो ठीक है एक छोटी activity ऐसी है, but otherwise so we have to work at it, no? So people are also, I think somewhere parents find an excuse कि अरे वो नहीं कर रहा है तो फिर ये कर लो ताकि हम अपने काम तो कर लें.
Yeah, and also Karan, taking a cue from you,
Yeah.
I think one of the other things is I want to take a few more steps back, and I think the real counseling is needed for the policy makers. Now there seems to be a certain urgent rush towards, oh, okay, you can't do it online. I mean, you can't do it offline.
Yeah. So
bring everything online. That's because that's the mentality of the work from home culture that's happening from the corporate world, and we're trying to just kind of kind of just mirror that in the context of a school kid. And I feel personally that it's kind of wrong. I think there's a lot more thought that needs to go into the pedagogical types and the various nuances involved in the way the teaching happens and occurs, the child-teacher relationship, for example, a whole lot of things. Now, one of the small, tiny, secrets that I have, told my son to do is that, look, I know this is going to be very monotonous, sitting in front of a screen for like 8 hours, 6 hours, going class after class, for example. Of course, his school was kind enough to give him a 20-minute break. But I told him that, look, I don't mind you getting into a WhatsApp call. Just be silent. Don't let anyone know, with a few of your friends who are also attending the same class. So you get the feeling that, look, you're all in the same class. Your friends are also attending, and you're not like the only one sitting and looking at the screen.
You don't feel isolated.
You feel very isolated. And first of all, this urgent jump from offline to online, because it had to happen. Like Karan, you said, life, or Preeti, you said life has to move on. Now they're all used to that timetable. Wake up at 6:30, pack the lunch box, put him in the school van or drop him in a car, and then I'm done. Until 4 p.m. I have nothing else to do when the kid comes back. So now the situation is that's not happening. Okay, now great, online classes, put him in the room and kind of shut it. Yeah. So I think
Shravan, I have something really So I have something really interesting to share over here because so my kids, both of them had real exams while of course this whole thing was going on, and of course after that we had a parent-teacher meeting, which I loved, by the way, online, because there was no line, there were no 100 parents standing trying to talk to the same teacher, and there was no parent behind you trying to hear what you're saying. I loved it. So I would propose that even going forward, because it was so easy and comfortable. The feedback I got from the teachers, which is quite interesting, is now there's no distraction in the class. The kids are doing so much better. There's no naughtiness. Sure. No one's laughing, and no one's cracking those jokes. The 40-minute class is 30 minutes. So we're getting a lot more done. They are submitting their assignments. They're more responsible. Their things are not lost. Of course, they're not lost because they're home. So it was quite a different and interesting perspective that the teachers found it really actually quite easy to manage that lot. So, I mean, I guess when it's a decent enough classroom and there's so many different teachers trying to manage it, it's always hard to manage that age group when they want to run around, and after 20 minutes, they're distracted. So suddenly all that is over. So I think the teachers are feeling that the kids are just much more manageable. So there's a huge difference there too. I mean, of course, there's nothing like being in school physically and everything, and I would not trade that for anything. But having said that, it's very interesting that the kids are faring better. I mean, my son did way better in his exams than he's ever done through this whole academic year, which I'm grateful for. So I don't know what do you think about that, Preeti?
I think it's each child deals with it differently. I mean, it differs from children to children. You're right. There are some children who are coping very well with this online stuff, and they feel there's less distraction and stuff like that. But it differs from child to child. The part about the parent-teacher meeting, what you said, I mean, I totally agree with you on that. And I've been there and done that with the mother eavesdropping at the back. What is the feedback from this, getting in, and whose mother spent that much time, and then you have that one odd mother who says, why did half mark go here and why did one?
You can't imagine me standing in a line too, right?
True. I think by the time
I'm the only guy with so many women who kind of go drop their child and get them back. So I'm like, hi, how are you? said, yeah, everything is good. Hi, how are you?
So
You know,
I think Karan, by the time we'll have
wait
proposed
to
the
hear this.
online thing.
Wait, but you have to hear this. So I'm
Yeah.
like, yes, everything is good. Yeah, yeah. हमारी लड़की ना आपके लड़के का नाम लेती रहती है घर में, काविश काविश. मैंने कहा क्यों ऐसा क्यों है? कि नहीं बहुत पसंद है वो. मैंने कहा अच्छा, that's very good. Then another one comes. No, Kavish is like a Kanaya of the school. I said, what? He's just like what, 2.5. How can he be a Kanaya and everything? I said, no, all the girls like him so much. And I'm under that stress that, okay, is this through the child that tried to kind of talk to me, or what is it? Or is it actually a stress for my child that he's got into? A lot of fun stuff happens, but of course interactions happen. You go physically to do things. That's the world that we live in, and I think the interactions are very much needed. As much as what you're saying that kids are doing better and stuff, distractions nahi hai, but I think we need those little distractions also. I think that's what makes us who we are today. If we become like this notebook kind of thing where this goes on for a year, I don't see children going to schools for at least a year. We are not prepared for this situation. Nobody was.
Not at all.
Kind of put anything in place for this also, it is impossible. You as a therapist didn't know you were going to do this online.
Absolutely.
I never knew I would be doing this, or all of us would be coming on a webinar which we were not equipped with. A lot of people that I was hosting my show for, they did not know how to come online. We still have that thing, ki, Arey, kaise karna, connect nahi ho raha, this, that. So we're not prepared for this. The kids are not prepared for this. But people are taking it. Everybody is different. So the way they take it is going to pressurize their children in a different way. So the more calm and how we can do it, maybe seeking out help, of course. If you need professionally, go see a therapist. Get help. It's okay. Because आज भी हमारी सोसाइटी में यही माना जाता है कि भैया अगर तुम डॉक्टर के पास जाते हो या थेरेपिस्ट के पास जाते हो, मतलब ऊपर के माले में तुम्हारा गड़बड़ है. But it's not like that. हम पागल नहीं हैं. You might just need help. It's just reaching out because the society thinks like this. But people need help at this point of time, and mostly parents need more because they're
I think this is a very important topic what Karan is stressing on. Last 16 years, if you ask me, whenever I have a client who walks in, part of my introduction would be to explain what counseling is about. I mean, when I started my consultancy, I wouldn't have people even standing outside my room, because just standing outside Preeti ma'am's room will be that they'll think, oh, something is wrong with her, she's gone to meet her, and she's got some psychological problem, or they use words like psycho and stuff like that. So that used to be the mindset. But yeah, over a period of time, they have understood that counseling is different, psychiatry is different. Psychiatry is not bad also, though there's a lot of stigma attached to it. When there is a chemical imbalance in the brain, you need medications to set it right. If I have diabetes, I'm going to go to a diabetologist.
Correct.
If I have a BP issue, I'm going to go into a cardiologist. If I'm having a chemical malfunction in my brain, which is causing certain behavioral changes, and I need medication, I need to go to a psychiatrist. But of course, there is a stigma always attached to it. So counseling, reaching out for counselors, if you ask me, there has been a vast awareness over the last 16 years. I mean, from having, say when I started my practice, having some 3 patients in a week used to be a big thing. And now my appointments are booked in advance. I mean, I will not meet anybody without an appointment being scheduled in advance. The sessions are running full. There'll be like your train ticket, we will have waiting list. Ma'am, if there is a cancellation, can you accommodate me? So that awareness is coming in, that you can reach out, and going to a therapist doesn't mean there's something majorly wrong with you. And coming back,
Preeti, just while you come back to the central topic, just to kind of also let the audience know, the entire education journey is not just about the syllabus pertaining to that particular standard in which, or the grade that they're studying in, but the entire childhood sort of knowledge base that the schools are trying to impart or put in place, right? And so that's a culmination of various experiences that you're likely to get in the school. And it's not just completing the syllabus. When Neha says that the teachers are finding it much more easier, that's because now they're just really razor sharp focused on completing the syllabus. The students are razor sharp focused on finishing the assignments, get a good mark, and done. So I think the need for, this is going to stay, and it does look like it's going to stay here for quite a while. There has to be a revisit into the policy of how, at a micro level and at a macro level, education needs to be imparted. It can't just be like, just kind of yeah, moving from, platform number 1 to platform number 2, because the train is now coming in platform number 2, sort of offline to online, and your solution and the problem is solved. So it needs an entire transformation, which should not just necessarily be pertaining to bring everybody online now. As we, that's the only cacophony that I hear, and which I think is a little bit of a dangerous move. So
Shravan, this is where I think, you people like you have a role to play in bringing about change. This is an ideal time to bring in some change in the academic system. See, earlier, if we talk about it, even if you had spoken to me about it, say before Corona, I would have like, hey, Shravan, just keep quiet, it's not going to work out and stuff like that. But now with the pandemic and probably an entire academic year being lost, and things like that, where they have to rework the portions, maybe you're not going to have 60 lessons, but you're going to have 30 lessons. So now that we have started it, I mean, it would be wonderful if a few educationalists and people like you, Shravan, and socioladder and other forums get together to bring in some change in the academic structure. It would be welcome, actually, in fact, to bring about this. And I think you should use this opportunity and this mindset that, it's all about studies. Yeah, studies is important. I mean, but it's not everything in life. How much did I study in school, which is helping me today, if you ask me? Not much. What I studied in the chemistry lab, I'm not mixing acids right now in my life. So, you have this thinking, how did chemistry help me? I'm not dissecting anything. So how is biology helping me and stuff like that? So even for counseling, if you ask me, many of them ask me, how did it help you and stuff like that? If you want me to be brutally honest with you, I think what I studied helped me only. I probably needed it for the degree on my board. 70 to 80% of the learning happened when I finally sat in that chair and, kept seeing patients, interacting. Experience taught me more. So most of it, what I studied in the book, may not be something that I'm using in my profession right now. So the academic structure, if you see, that's an entirely different line. You could probably have an entire series on it. And this, according to me as a therapist, I'd say is an ideal situation for all of you to get together to bring in some change. This concept that everybody needs to achieve high marks and everybody needs to get into, I do not want to mention institutions in particular, but everybody should get into premier institutions. It's not necessary. You can get into a normal college, and you can still be successful in life. It's not just about education, it's about life skills. You get it today? It's
Absolutely.
Not somebody with, it's not just your degree, it's about your life skills, it's about your attitude. It's about how flexible are you. It's no longer survival of the fittest. You're reading about it everywhere. It's survival, of the one who can adapt the most, the one who is most flexible. So I think, one plus I hope it comes out of this pandemic is we bring in some structural change in the academic area of it, that everybody should become an engineer and everybody should become a doctor. I mean, enough. I mean, give them a break. And if all of us are going to become, doctors, I always tell patients, my clients, I said, then who's going to become the patient? There are so many other fields, which I think you are not aware of. To give you a short example, sometime back I had a parent who called me and he said, I need an emergency session. And I was like, no, I'm running full today and I'm booked till 9 o'clock. Can I accommodate tomorrow? No, it's an emergency session. Somehow you have to. So I was just like, is the child suicidal or something? In which case I will rework something. Otherwise I will see the child tomorrow. He made some 20 calls and he said, no, I'm an, I'm an IAS officer and, I'm this and that. And, you have to schedule my child into your thing and all. And then I was like, okay, fine, rework my appointments, everything. And then he brought in his teenage kid and I was like, okay, what is the issue here? And he says, he's saying he's not going to do engineering or medicine. I said, that's the emergency? He said, yes. I am an IAS officer. My brother is a doctor. My sister is an engineer. My father-in-law, my brother-in-law, my sister-in-law. And this boy says he wants to get into social sciences and things like that. And he said the whole family, we are going to die of shame and we are going to end our life. And I was just shell-shocked. So I said, this is what the emergency that, you've made this many calls. He said, yeah, you please explain to him that he has to do this professional course. I mean, we have a family prestige, etc. and all. So then I just said, how many calls, sir, did you make to me today? And he said, sorry. I said, no, sir, how many phone calls did you make to me today? He said, madam, I don't understand. I said, no, sir, my question is very clear. How many phone calls did you make to me today? He said, I must have made about 5-6 calls. So I said, you made 5-6 calls. You desperately needed my services today, right? He said, yeah. I said, sir, do you know what I've studied? He said, no. I said, I'm an art student. And today you needed my services desperately. I'm not an engineer. I'm not a doctor. I'm an art student. I've studied psychology. So each field, has its own importance here. So I think this kind of mindset needs to be broken. And Shravan, it's also my request to you, it's people like you who are going to bring in some kind of change in the educational structure, this is the right time for you to do it.
Right. And we have, interestingly today, we've got a lot of attendees who are from the education and academic background. And I think we've had a lot of sessions prior to this, where we had very eminent academicians and also people from the Central Board of Secondary Education and so on and so forth. And I think everybody is actually working towards how to deal with this new norm. And I think it's a great opportunity for us to kind of make that tectonic shift where childhood is really kind of celebrated. I remember my own childhood when I grew up with my grandfather, and it was the most fabulous time of my entire life until now. I would relive to get those moments back. And
Shravan, tell me, what would our children tell us today when you ask them about childhood? I went from the physics class to the chemistry class to the other coaching class to this coaching class.
To the need to the IIT JEE test, to the BYJU'S, to I'm not wanting to name any particular thing. But
so what stories, childhood stories, are our children going to say?
Yeah, and it's all online. It's mobile phone. I've got the latest app version, but I could not get. My friend got the latest phone, which was this version, and I got the So anyway, right, Karan, right. So back to the central topic now. So in terms of the sudden movement to online, right, and all classes moving to online, what are the practical tips do you think you would give parents?
I think I tell them to take it slow.
With their kids.
I think I tell
spacing
them
out.
Spacing out. And please understand that each child is different. Each child is unique. Please do not compare. Okay, somebody may be able to take 4 classes in a day, whereas another child may be able to just accommodate 2 classes a day. So don't push them, don't stress them out, is what I would tell parents. And there is no need to keep them occupied 24 hours, hopping from one screen to the other screen, to the other class, to the other class. I mean, please, there is no compulsion. Do not do that. And again, you may say, okay, Preeti brings out a lot of negative, scary stories, but sometimes you need to know what's happening out there. I have recently had a 12th grader who they just probably overdid it with, the NEET coaching and the JEE and the 12th standard curriculum and stuff like that. And I think I got a call around 4 a.m. From the mom. And then I was like, yeah, what happened? And she said, something is wrong. I said, what happened? She said, I just went to her room. And she said, this was a child who was attending all these classes, and she had the whiteboard and she had her books, and her room was filled with papers and reference books and all. And she said, I just went in to check on her to see what she was doing. She said, the laptop's been put inside. All the books have been put inside. The whiteboard has been wiped clean. Her room looks like a hotel room, neat, nothing. The bed's been made. And she just sat down and she said, that's it. She just had a breakdown. And she said, that's it. I'm not going to attend any other class. And you won't believe it. She didn't talk for about 2-3 days. And we had to even consider that, whether she needed any psychiatric intervention. It became so bad. And then thankfully, it was just an overload for her. So you don't know which way it is going to go for which child. So all I would tell you parents is take a break. It's okay if they don't attend that many classes. There is more to life than, just these degrees and these classes. I mean, give them a chance to enjoy their childhood, and please understand the circumstances that they are going through. You and me have not gone through the pandemic as children. We were lucky and fortunate, to have some kind of a childhood. And in normal circumstances itself, these kids, have not had that opportunity. And now with the pandemic, it's just become more serious. So I would say, take a break.
Sure.
Take a chill pill, it's okay. Need not be classes all the time. So as far as academics and online classes, that's what I would like to say. And you don't have to have classes for dancing and singing and
Oh, yeah.
painting.
Itna to hum log khud ko, we should do this ourselves with the children, the dancing and the singing and whatever activities need to be done. I just had a little point there. I said, as much as we might have these institutions doing the best that they can put in those curriculums or those things, academically for our children, but what do parents do for the children? Isn't that important at all? But isn't that important where at a fundamental level, when Kavish was born, and I remember me and Nisha talking about this, we don't want him to be getting 99%. We don't want him to be a brainy child. I said, doesn't matter to me at all. If he's excelling in whatever he thinks about or his thought process or anything, I think that is more important for me rather than him getting grades, because I never got some amazing grades all over my life. I was topper, I was here, there. I changed so many things. I'm the biggest example. I don't know if you guys know this, but all right, I did my 10th, and then of course it was decided कि अरे क्या करना है, engineering, doctor or BC or whatever tomorrow you have to do. So you want to do commerce or what? I said okay, well let's do commerce. Okay, commerce कर लिया. उसके बाद चलो 12th में भी अच्छे marks आ गए. I got 84% in 12th grade. I'm talking about the year 2000. Not bad, but not the 99 section, of course. Then it suddenly shifted to me being a fashion designer. I did a fashion designing course from NIFT, which is the premier institution in India. I became the topper of my college, worked very hard for 4 years. So it was something very drastic, because तब बोलते थे कि यार लड़कियों वाला course है, तू क्यों कर रहा है? After 6 months of me being in the course and becoming the topper, everybody was like, "Oh, NIFT, you're the topper! Wow, this is amazing!" And I used to laugh at it. मैं कहा ये क्या है? And after that course, I was being pushed by people that why don't you become an actor? I said, why would I become an actor? I always wanted to be a model, but I never wanted to be an actor. But then everybody started pushing me towards Bombay. All right, so I came to Bombay. I tried it out for a month, got very good response, went back home, packed my bags. 6 months later, come back to Bombay, started my struggle in 2004. I did my acting course. अभी जैसे how Preeti said, पढ़ाई कहाँ काम आई? ठीक है, all round development के लिए बहुत ज़रूरी है. But the acting I had to learn. So I did a 4 months course. I understood what it was. I worked behind the camera for 4 years to understand the other aspects and the other departments. चाहे वो production है, styling है, direction है, lighting है, to understand the entire thing. To finally becoming or going into that show, which became I became a household name only because I had worked so much and I put in that much effort, which was not related to a lot of my studies that I was doing. And even after my acting today, what am I doing here? Sitting, doing other things. I have my own other brands that I'm working in, which is also not teaching, helping me from what I had been taught. I am being taught myself every day, learning the process to grow up as a human being, or seeing people and talking and spreading that message around to people. So I think at a fundamental level, when we have understood this, why are we not inculcating those values for our children?
Exactly, Karan, yeah.
Okay, do what you want, I'll support you. Let's be happy. Whatever makes you happy, let's just do that. मतलब online class करानी है तो बेटा
I think
why
yeah,
also
that's right,
to add to
that's
that,
right.
Karan,
So,
I mean,
right, and
we
the
all
crux,
we all start off with being parents for the first time. Okay, I mean, we have read every book that there is. I'm sure all the parents out there have read What to Expect When They're Expecting. There is not a parent who's not read that book. There's not a parent who's not gone to the classes how to wrap their babies. But when it actually comes to the eventuality of doing it, how many of them are successful? It's a live and learn kind of an experience. And that's how education goes as well. You kind of build yourself into where you want to go. It's a flow. You never know. You want to grow up and be a scientist, but you actually end up being an astronaut, or you end up being a doctor, or you end up being a fashion designer. I'm myself a fashion designer, so I knew right away that's where I want to be, and I went to Pearl. So I mean, for so many different things, I mean, we always can't have a direction. I mean, we do so many things that we kind of go back and forth on, and so will the kids. I mean, they have to live and learn from the experiences, get to a point when they actually can make that choice, and that choice may even change down the line. So I think we should give them the liberty to just be, just find their own character, their own personalities, develop into human beings which are more receptive to the world around them, and then kind of choose a career path that suits them, suits their happiness. I mean, so if we can actually do that, there will be no such strain of parents helicoptering.
And just to add on very quickly, and in the interest of time, I want to we need to spend at least 30 minutes for question and answer. There are a lot of questions out there for us, and there's one more topic that we want to talk about before we get into the Q&A. I think in Vedic, like in the ancient times, in the ancient India, education meant three key principles. It revolved around three key principles, right? One is Ravanam, which is like to listen. We need to teach all kids the art of listening. Okay, today, most of the kids, the span of attention is probably 5 seconds. They're on one app, they're bored of the app, they go to the next app, they're bored of the phone, they go to the next instrument, the next gadget, to the next topic, to the next topic. Listening, so Sravanam, right? So and these are very fundamentals of education that are timeless. I think they're very relevant today in as much as they were relevant previously. And the second one is Manana, which means we need to get students to think and analyze. No, the entire, the syllabus and the kind of chapters and the kind of doctrines of finishing the pedagogical, learning methodology of today, which is syllabus, finish the syllabus, go ahead and reproduce that in the exam paper, and you get your grades, right? So that entire focus on Manana is kind of depleting by the day. And I think a lot more needs to be done around the fact of, Manana, which is the second principle, which has been timeless, from the ancient times. And the last one is Nidyasana, which means basically students should apply knowledge in their own life. Like what Karan was saying, he studied something, but he picked up a lot of knowledge. And Preeti studied arts, but her real essence of knowledge is what is helping her do her profession today. And these three principles, I think, would form the cornerstone of a balanced growth in an individual, from a childhood to adolescence to a young adult to a very successful human being, to carry all the faculties of compassion, coexistence, sustainability, for which the entire UNGC exists, revolves around coexistence and sustainability. So I think it's very important. I just wanted to, say that the second part of Manana is hardly happening these days. Think, analyze. And even the first one, which is Ravanam, which is to listen. The span of attention of the kids today is very, very limited. And that's because of the enormous amount of gadgets and, virtual sort of animosities that they're dealing with. So it's important to, reinforce these three broad, concepts of education itself in the way that, the learning happens in schools. Is really what I think I wanted to communicate. And Preeti, over to you, just a few closing remarks on this topic, and then we have the next one, which is on dealing with fears, kids' insecurities, and how do you deal with them?
Yeah. I think I'd like to go straight to that, where I want to stress again that it's not just adults. Children also are going through a lot of fears and insecurities, specifically the pre-adolescent and the adolescent children, in terms of, the future, the college admissions, the entrance exam, board evaluations. I have a case of a child who was, requested for a session yesterday, and this child has probably been taking academics a little too easy through the school term, but she studied very, very hard for her board exams. And now, because of this entire corona thing happening, the school has decided that marks will be graded on the school performance through the year and not the board exams. So she is unable to bear with the disappointment. She says, I know that I didn't do very well in my class tests and, my monthly tests and everything, but I worked so hard for the board exam. I knew that, I'm going to get 95 and above or 99 and above, and science was what I had planned and everything. I had, worked it out. And now they're going to grade me for my school performance or whatever marks I got in my class tests. And according to that grading, I'm eligible only for commerce. And I just don't know how to deal with it. And she says things like, I never thought that I would have to go through this. And at her level, please understand that it's a humongous amount of stress for her. And of course, don't forget the fact that at the background, you have the mother saying, this is why I told you every exam you should, work hard, because many children have this concept that ma chill ma in the board exam, you know, I'll work and I'll get marks in the end. So these are some of the kind of frustrations that the children are going through, and they're not able to probably, you know, deal with it. Not just academically, things like an 18th birthday not being celebrated may sound petty to many, but trust me, these are all big deals. I had another mother who reached out to me saying, I don't know why my teenage daughter is being, you know, so angry and so upset, and it's her birthday, and she yelled and she fought with everybody in the house, and she's being really nasty and stuff like that. And when I spoke to the child, she was like, it's the 18th birthday, and my uncle had promised me apple champagne for my 18th birthday, now that I have become an adult. And now forget champagne, even a cake was not going to happen, because in Chennai is under complete lockdown, so there's no question of going to the baker and getting the cake. So she was not able to deal, you know, with that disappointment. There are children who call up for sessions because they're missing out on a graduation ceremony or a farewell party, and they were like, we bought our dresses and we wanted to, you know, we had dreams of how we're going to celebrate the last day in school. So maybe on an adult level, it may seem trivial to you, but from a child's point of view, from a child's perspective, these are huge disappointments. These things, you know, it takes a lot of effort to process it. So they are going through their own amount of disappointments. And coming to fears and insecurities, do you need any more negative energy around you today? I mean, just see what's happening. Switch on the TV. Do you hear anything positive? The headline starts with highest spike in single day spike. It starts off with that, and then there is the political war happening, and then it's just negative, negative, negative. Do you understand how it can affect your child? Even the discussion in the family is, do you know that uncle, he tested positive? Do you know this grandpa, he passed away? So you may think that your child is not listening or whatever, but in the subconscious mind, it is affecting your child. It is causing a lot of insecurity, and they may not express it, but they are going through their own fears. What if my mom tests corona positive? They say old people are more prone to it. What happens if my grandpa gets corona? And I'm so close to my grandfather, and he's the only one who gets me, and I'm so worried that something is going to happen to him. And trust me, nobody in the family is aware that the child is going through this fear, that, you know, she's so worried about losing an elder person in the family. So they are going through their own issues, and some of them are developing a lot of fears because of all the time we are talking about, you know, fever and cough and sore throat. There are a lot of children now who are calling up and constantly thinking something is wrong with them health-wise. If it's not a rash, I'm having an odd pain here and I'm having a pain there, and then they go to the doctor and the doctor tells them it's all fine, and they start becoming obsessed about their health because that's what everybody is talking all around them. So a lot of insecurity.
So Preeti, how do you, Preeti, sorry to interrupt, but so what's your practical advice on how should parents deal with such fears? First is communicating and getting those fears out in the open, so they're not kind of nursing it inside this, inside their sort of psyche, for example. Number one is what is your advice in terms of getting those fears out?
See, first and foremost,
how should parents deal with this?
See, it's a very balanced approach. Like either parents go extreme, either they say just keep quiet, everything is fine with you, you are just making an issue out of it, and then they brush it aside. That also is not very healthy, because then the child feels that you did not value my words, and I'm telling you that I'm having a pain here or an ache here, and she never listens to me or he never listens to me. So that approach also is not advisable. And then you have another set of parents who will overreact. Like I'm having one particular client now where every day she is taking her son to a new specialist, and we are trying to tell her that unnecessary trips to the hospital itself is a risk today, unless it's something life-threatening or whatever. But she says, no, he's complaining today of, his stomach pain, so I'm going to take him for a stomach scan. Then the next day she says, no, he says he's got a headache, so I'm taking him for an MRI. So you need to find the balance somewhere in between. And at some point of time, you also need to draw the line and say, that's it. We have done these 2-3 tests and these things are fine. You need to probably distract the child. And many times when children present these kind of symptoms, it is somewhere something deeper. They are going through some other issues which is probably manifesting in a ear pain or a random ache or a breathing difficulty. They're being masked by these physical symptoms. So it's a very balanced approach that you have to follow, and sometimes you have to be a little firm about it, because this child now, what has happened is his mom's been taking him to every specialist every other day. And now in his last session with him, what he was discussing? He says, I'm afraid. I said, now what are you afraid about? He says, I have visited so many doctors. I'm afraid that I would have brought the infection back to my family.
Sure.
Yeah, he said,
but in the general course of proceedings in a normal family where the kids are okay, they don't exhibit any pain or whatever, like phantom pains, for example. How do you address fears that that they may be nursing inside them? Do you bring them out in the open and say, hey, let's talk about it? And where do you draw the line? What are the age groups that where you draw the line and you don't want to discuss about it because it could kind of make it more intense and it could make it even more difficult for them to address it? Or at what age group do you say, hey, you encourage them to speak about it?
Shravan, I think you're...
So that, it becomes, at least the burden, comes down.
See, I think basically communication is the key. And then again, it's different for each child, each personality. Like I have some parents who tell me that I don't even have to ask him anything or ask her anything. She comes back from school and from A to Z, the whole thing she will, blurt out. And there are some children who will not share information with you unless you ask them. And then you have another category of children who, even if you ask them, will not want to, divulge any facts of what happened in school. So each child is unique. And I think as a parent, somewhere along the way, first you need to respect the uniqueness of your child. You need to respect the differences. And you need to have an open line of communication. Now, where exactly you draw the line would depend from child to child. You need to take it slow. See, there is no one size fits all. Parenting is very customized. You get what I'm saying? So what works with my child may not work for your child. What works for your child may not work for another person's child. But communicating, most of the time, if you just listen to your children, I think it will make a world of difference. And when I say listen, you don't thrust your views. You don't complete sentences for them. Parents, I think, majorly miss out because nowadays we don't listen. And this topic about listening is something I do even in marital therapy. Most of the time, when the husband's talking, the wife's not listening, or vice versa. You get what I'm saying? The initial few sessions of marital therapy is like one war zone in my room where both are talking at the same time and both are not listening. Suddenly, when I interrupt the session and I say, what did he say? And she's like, no, actually, I don't know, because I was saying my own stuff. Effective listening. When you just keep quiet and when you listen, you begin to understand a lot about what your child is going through, and realize that each child is different. Respect your child for who he or she is, and you need to take it at their own pace. You need to take it at a pace which is comfortable for the child. And when you feel that you're pushing it too much or the child is withdrawing, then probably you need to take it a notch back, give them some space, and then revisit it at a later point of time.
Sure.
And I would also try to say that beware of the child who doesn't talk much. You never know what's going on inside. So please, during the pandemic, be very aware of any small behavioral changes you are noticing, as in irritability, wanting more of isolation, appetite going down or appetite increasing, sleeping less, sleeping more. Please be very vigilant, because it's a very difficult time for children, and not every child is going to walk up and say, hey, look, I'm having a problem and I want to talk about it. So parents have this huge task of not overdoing it at the same time. Like I said, you can't put them under a microscope and keep observing them all the time, but you need to keep an eye out on them. You need to keep an eye out on them. You need to respect that each child is different.
And I'm an introvert, so I turned out okay. So
sorry?
I said I was a total introvert guy, a very shy guy, till I was 21. So I turned out okay. So it doesn't make anybody less this thing that
absolutely
chup rehta hai, ye hai, to uska problem. So it's just everybody's just different. So I think we just need to learn to accept.
You need to accept your child for who he or she is. Do not judge them from your yardstick. Each child is unique. Correct. I mean, some talk a lot, some don't talk a lot. The one who doesn't talk much, it doesn't make him inferior or less, or don't crib about it. Don't say it in a negative way, ki baat hi nahi karta. I mean, that's his nature.
But
Why do you
I
make
also
it?
feel that it's really important that you set aside a time, which is a family time, when it's sharing time. So what happens is, inevitably they tend to share. So I mean, for us it's meal times, when we talk about our day. So inevitably in that baat karte karte koi baat aa hi jati hai, jab it's like ki, oh, this happened in school. Oh, by the way, he was bullying him and he was bullying him. Something comes up. So you kind of know what's going on. So if you set aside a certain amount of time to actually interact when it's only about that, then it's always easier for the child to open up. And they know that's the time when they can reciprocate, and, they can talk about their feelings or what they're going through. So sometimes it helps when you are in that situation and you set aside that very important time.
Have your red tables at home.
Yes.
Yeah, very valid point there. Yeah. Well, if there's anything else, Preeti, or I will move on to the Q&As because a
Yeah, I
lot of
think you
interesting
can.
questions.
Yeah.
All right, let me start with this. Maybe I'm choosing this question because it could be a pretty universal question that a lot of people might have. It's from a person named Tina Sachdev. Her question is, my child is really addicted to TV and YouTube. So while attending classes, he starts seeing YouTube and a lot of work is incomplete. So he ends up doing work for 5 to 6 hours. How do I deal with it?
Start working in YouTube. What else? You could build a career there.
Good one, Karan.
Nothing to worry about, right? You never know. When Kavish
Yeah.
sees screen time and
I
he
would let.
says,
So,
"No, YouTube." I said, "No, let's watch Netflix." He's like, "No, let's watch YouTube."
but you don't know what he's watching in YouTube. But yeah,
No,
well, thanks, Karan. Yeah,
yeah, but
So,
Preeti.
so also screen time helps, So when you can do something called a screen timing, so when you can set aside a certain amount of time which you can dedicate to only your screen time, so then they know that they don't have that much screen time to actually view everything. So they only have a dedicated amount of time. So then automatically you can solve that problem without getting into too much concentration.
Screen time, technology.
Yes.
Well, Preeti, what are the underlying issues? I think both Karan and Neha, gave a more objective answer, as in practical answers. But but what are the underlying issue? A kid, is
Wanting to.
unrelenting, is wanting to watch TV and only YouTube, and not getting into the normal regime of the so-called online classes or studying and so on and so forth. So, what are the underlying issues, and how do you what's your recommendation?
He could probably be an attention seeker. He could probably doing it to get attention from you, to make himself notice, because children sometimes feel they lack the understanding to know that I should do the right things to get the attention. I mean, they will do anything. I mean, they don't have the filtration process. I'm going to study well and make my mom recognize me. Be like, I'm going to throw a tantrum, and that's when she's going to give me the importance or whatever. So it could be probably that the child is trying to be rebellious. The child is probably trying to get some attention. And then I would also like to say, probably the adults in the family are doing it.
Yeah.
Probably the adults in the family are doing it. Before you pass, these comments that the child is always hooked on to the mobile, or is always chatting on the net, or interacting with somebody all the time, or watching a movie or a serial. Probably the adults in the family are doing it. I have another question here, which has been sent to me, saying my nephew is 5 years old and he wants screen time during lunch. How do you tackle this? I think this is by Priyanka, and similar questions have been asked by Shagufta, Fatima, Preet, and Mahmoudal. So see, I particularly believe that certain things, no compromises should be done, and that when it comes to discipline, these things never go out of fashion. You get what I'm saying? Meal times should be meal times where you sit as a family. Nobody touches the mobile. You have your meal together, you talk. Even if you don't have too much to communicate, it's fine. But no mobiles on the table. And many times if you see, the family members, either the father or the mother, will also be sitting with the mobile in the hand. So you set by example. I always tell parents, by advising them, by continuously talking, they're only going to get irritated. You set by example. You stop looking into your mobile all the time. Reduce your use of gadgets in the house. Automatically, I think your child is going to follow, because I completely believe in it, that you can mold your child in any which way. So And also could be that the child is probably going through some other emotional issue which is being masked by the sneaky, I have a lot of them who say that I don't want my mom to know that I'm going through a relationship issue, so I all the time pretend to be busy, that I'm on the mobile and I'm checking out stuff. I want to reduce my interaction with her. So it can be a lot of deeper issues happening there, which she's probably trying to camouflage with sitting with the mobile all the time, simply because she doesn't want to converse with the mom. So it differs from child to child. And discipline, meal times, trust me, 10 years back, 20 years back, 30 years down the line, certain things don't change. Discipline, family values, eating together, these are all timeless classics, what we say now in parenting. These things you need to follow.
All of us have been through it. We never had mobiles at that point of time to kind of have that distraction.
Absolutely.
Chalo TV dekh liya, but still you're talking, you're doing things,
Sharing
things, you go put it together in the family. You are trying to spend time, which is very important, and I think that's one point of time where you need to do this.
So we have one question here that says how to make kids learn new things during the pandemic without putting additional stress on them. So the best way forward for that is maybe get involved yourself in doing those activities with them. Like supposing they need to do an art class, for example, draw with them. If there's a dance class, dance with them. If there's a music class, yeah, sing with them. If you can't sing so well, still try. That's fine. I mean, if you involve yourself, make them also feel that you're part of that activity and they're just not isolated and just looking at a screen and doing it. Maybe that helps them get motivated. Give them some maybe some rewards for getting things done at a certain time. Maybe if it works for your kid, like maybe you can also channelize those things and say if you get these things done, maybe you get extra hours, or maybe you can get play on your PS. Maybe you can watch a certain movie, or do certain things you like. Maybe you can just get me time where you do nothing. So those things really help in their focus, and they want to get the task done well. And also, I mean, if sometimes they don't want to be part of a class even though they've enrolled for it, it's okay, because so many times we don't want to be part of certain things that we've enrolled for, and we find a way out. So sometimes it's okay for them not to attend it, and sometimes we have to be more resilient and say it's fine. It's absolutely okay if today you don't want to attend it. Chill, take a chill pill, do what you need to do. So I think that will be more giving them more motivation and determination to get things done.
Great. All right. I also have a question that has been shot up to me, so I'll go quickly. So how should you keep toddlers engaged during the pandemic in a productive way? Shruti has asked me this question. Well, it totally depends again how you want to keep your children engaged. What is your level of engagement will determine how much you can do for your child. If you are not that enthusiastic, you're not going to be running around with your child, and if you are really coping up with the issues of working and shayad ye sambhal lega, wo sambhal lega, so you have to design something like that. So I think I have the best time that I have with Kavish is when I put him to sleep, and the best time that I have with him is after he gets up. So he basically wakes me up in the morning, which is amazing. It could be at 6 o'clock in the morning, and there's hardly any sun, and he's like, "Papa, good morning." I said, "No, Kavish, let's just go and sleep." And then we get up maybe at 8 o'clock or something, but then we are playing on the bed for an hour. There's so much of stuff happening. There's so much of talks happening. And when I'm putting him to sleep, there's another issue, because then he reads his book, he reads his stuff, and then he's wanting to get away with everything, making excuses like, "Papa, susu, let's go." I said, "No, no, no, susu, abhi karke aaye. So ja." "No, then we'll do this." "No, no, no, this is not happening. Not with me. So let's go." So I have been the stricter one. Nishat's also strict, but I'm a little more strict, and I don't give in to what he says. So I basically do things with a patient attitude, wherein I reason with him. Nisha is like, "Karti hai, wo bhi karti hai," but then it's like, "Oh, mera beta," and then she goes on. I said, "Now he's sweeping you off. He's 3 years old. All the ladies in the house are running after him. He is really using you guys. You don't even know about it." And मैं आता हूँ तो आराम से he'll wear his clothes, he'll eat, he'll do everything with me without any fuss. But with them, he's doing everything. So of course, there are a lot of activities that you can do. So in the morning when he gets up, this is what I do. So either I play with him, if I'm not, if I'm doing the household, somebody else is playing with him. Then we get on to his eating stuff. Then there's a set of games that are laid out in the house. All his games come. differently every day. कि आज ये खेलते हैं, let's do this. Then he has his class where he does the drawing, or he does singing or dancing, not singing actually, dancing and other things. Then he has his own time where he's playing with us, or he comes in the afternoon, plays with me or Nisha. In the evening, it is a set routine. In the pandemic that has happened, we used to have sundown parties every day. I know it's not easy, but there's a table laid out in the gallery. We see the sunset. We all sit out. We are talking, and he's eating, and he's going doing some things in the garden, like hardly garden, like pots and stuff. So he would go put some water in it, or he's having a pool party every day, or something happens. So there are other activities that you have to design with the kid, and then he finally has his evening meal, and then it's time for bed. So the routine is set like that. अब उसमें वो खेल रहा है, बार बार कुछ interesting चीजें कर रहा है, he's learning. Like yesterday, we went out for a drive, which happened like for the second time in the pandemic time. But he was so happy to go and see, and he was talking about everything. He saw the trains, he saw birds, he saw everything, and he started talking so much. But he knew what he was seeing on the road. It was not something that he was not understanding. So that means whatever we have been doing, he's responding to that. I think that is the only time that we will know कि हम सही कर रहे हैं कि गलत, because it's very difficult with little children right now being at home. But this is the best you can do. You have to decide for yourself. Again, like how Preeti said, what I'm suggesting might work for you, might not. But you have to find what will work for your child. What works for you first. Because अगर आपके पास ही time नहीं है तो फिर मेरे से suggestion लेके कुछ करने नहीं वाले हो. It's only going to look nice.
There's another one I have here which says, your views, the best ways to correct kids, and management tips for a working mother. That's by Ruth Sarah Philip. So first I would like to address, how do you correct kids? So, having a teenager, sometimes, it can get a bit hard. But what I've learned from my experience, maybe right or wrong, like both Karan and Preeti said, I actually like to not have an argument with him. At that time, I prefer to actually just, calm him down and get to a point where he is in a position to actually hear me or understand me. Once he's in that position, then it's easy to reason with him. Because when he's all about, no, that's the way I want to do things, it's harder to reason with him. Or I guess with all children. So once they are calm and they've really gotten a little bit of patience from us, I think they're very much more susceptible to reasoning, and they're actually quite understanding. So that's the way I deal with things. And the thing with managing stuff around working mothers is a great example by Karan, is that both the dad and the mom has to pitch in. It's your child, both your children. So I don't see why the responsibility has to be on one parent. Co-parenting is the best way forward. It's so healthy. It's such a healthy growing up for the child. It's such a secure environment, knowing that both your mother and father are always there for you. So I think we have to share that burden. And I think if we can do that, there is enough time in the world to manage that time out. So that's my way of probably managing a working mother.
Thanks, Neha. I think we're left with another 10 minutes.
Shravan, I have a very interesting question here, which I would like to take. It's by Dr. Rajendra Singh, which says, with so many people in the private sector losing jobs, case in point, a private school teacher has started puncture repair shop due to financial issues. Children's expectations are taking a hit and parents are under pressure on what sort of an impression is that causing? Please suggest. This is by Dr. Rajendra Singh. This is a wonderful question, which I would really like to discuss. See, this I can totally understand. From a private sector job, you are, he says that he's now into repairing tires. It can be a massive shift. It's something, a completely change of scene from what this person is used to doing. But you know what? It depends on how you're going to look at it. You can use it for your benefit. Because like I was telling you, adaptability and flexibility is going to be the key mantra forward. So I think it depends on how the parent is going to look at it. That, hey, look, I was in a private sector job, but you know what? It didn't work out and I lost the job due to COVID and situation and things like that. But you know what? I figured out how to puncture tires and, repair a punctured tire, and I'm still going to be able to provide for my family. So to find an alternative, to to deviate from the usual, to have that mindset. See, that is something majorly lacking in children nowadays. Like they're not able to deal with mindsets. See, I want to do medicine, or they have something fixed. So generally we say have a plan A, have a plan B, have a plan C. That's the way that you deal. You need to be adaptable. You need to be flexible. You want a particular stream in an engineering college, you need to have a choice A, choice B, and a choice C. Don't be fixed to any one. So I think this particular person who's, you know, from a private sector job, a school teacher who's now repairing puncture tires, I think this is a wonderful learning experience or a life lesson which he's going to teach, to turn an adversity, you know, into something positive. That, you know, it was something bad which was happening, and then you've fallen down, but then you see failure is not falling down, it is staying down. It's falling and staying down is failure. All of us fall at some point of time. The key is that you don't stay down. So this particular person, I mean, amazing life lesson he's going to teach his kid, that, hey, look, I'm taking pride in the fact that I didn't give up. I lost my job, but I'm repairing. Somebody needs to repair a punctured tire, right? That's also important. So I don't think it's going to have a negative impact on the child. It depends on how the adult is going to view it. If you are going to be depressed and you're going to be in a very dark place and you are going to be ashamed about it, you are going to pass on the same energy to the kid. But if you are going to be proud of it and say that, okay, you know, it was a big thing, okay, I was a teacher, okay, now I'm doing this, but you know what, it's fine. I figured out a plan B and life is good. I mean, what bigger wealth can you give your child than giving them this mindset that, you know, it's okay to be flexible, it's okay to plan something, it doesn't work out, there's always a plan B, there's always a plan C, it's not the end of the world. So I think it totally depends on how you look at it, and I think it's going to be a wonderful experience, life experience to teach your kid. Kudos to this person who's, you know, changing tires, who repairing a punctured tire. I mean, it's awesome. At least he's not sitting at home and crying about it. He's doing something. He's fighting it. And that's amazing. And that's a spirit you need to encourage. And as a parent, I think it's great what he's doing.
That's an amazing question and a very good, answer as well. I mean, very good insight as well, Preeti. I think we all need to kind of absorb what was being asked and what was being answered. I think everybody participating here at some point of time have gone through the troughs and the highs in their careers. And the troughs doesn't mean you stay there, and you have to have that fighting spirit. And when your kid actually looks at that fighting spirit and say, hey, yeah, my dad knows how to deal with things, and I'm going to be doing the same thing when I grow up. I think it's a fabulous question to be asked in this
Absolutely.
forum.
And you empower your child. I mean, your child should be comfortable traveling in the city bus. Your child should be comfortable traveling in a share auto. And your child should be equally comfortable traveling in a Mercedes Benz. You get what I'm saying?
Yes,
this is the key to success. Adaptability, flexibility, you know, important lessons in life.
Yeah.
Absolute important, invaluable lessons in life.
Exceptionally good stuff. Well, I've got one question, and after that, I'm just gonna, call for a word of thanks by Rashika. This is from Shagufta Fatima. She says, my nephew is attending online classes of grade 2. How tragic is that? I'm sorry for saying that, but I'm not deriding any school mechanism of coping with the pandemic, but I'm just saying that sounds tragic. It's so stressful to see him sticking onto the screen, and he just gets bored easily with an activity. And as they can't go out or play games, blah, 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 he ends up watching cartoons and gets distracted. Now, how to sustain this problem? What's the solution for this problem? And I think it's a very interesting question. I thought I'd just ask that as a final question, and then we can have some closing remarks.
But I think it's quite a situation. Even Kavish, he doesn't like online classes that much. He's not taking up to it very nicely. I think the fact that there is a screen and somebody doing something, he's not very comfortable with it. Though we tried.
Do we need online classes until grade 5 at all?
So, my younger one is in the 3rd grade and he does need them apparently. So, yeah, I think we do.
All right, yeah. And I know where it's coming from as well, Neha. Yeah.
Mostly what is happening, schools keep guiding. Schools also have to do something, right? So they have to always how do they have the money to kind of do this.
So
the only option is to go online and start doing it because they have to charge their fees. They are in that mode. The kids are they don't know what to do because online is something that they're not very used to. Okay, हमें थोड़े दिन पहले भेज रहे थे आप school में where I could meet my friends, chill out with them, listen to the teacher or do my stuff. And this is space that they are exploring. This is what we have done. All of us have done this. But It's a situation that
so great, Karan. So on the positive side, I think we're now getting into unlock 2.0, isn't it? From next month. So we're already in the unlock phase. So let's all rejoice the fact
But having said that, Shravan, I also feel
Yeah.
what if we didn't have the internet and we were in this pandemic? I mean, have we ever thought about what our lives would be? So that's another big question mark, because there would be no connection with anyone. I mean, this webinar wouldn't be possible.
The most important thing that we would not be connected with is Google, and when you type news and you will see only Corona. That would have been the most fascinating, happiest moment of my life if there was no internet.
You would just feel it would be like in the Big Boss house.
Yeah, that's true. And you can share some insights on that, Karan, because I think none of us have felt that.
I know I've been asked this a lot, that you're in the pandemic, sir, Big Boss की तरह लग रहा है. मैंने कहा sir, यहाँ पे your family, खाना पीना मिल रहा है. You can watch anything, you can do so much stuff, you can listen to the TV or whatever, you can do FaceTime to your families, your relatives जिनको नहीं बात की इतने time से, you can do so much. I said that house is very different. It's the most controversial house in the world. Anybody who goes in doesn't come out clean. I think I was just lucky enough to do that. And I had my own experience. I was laughing. I had a good time, which they never showed, which is okay. 5 weeks inside the house, then out. So okay.
Yeah.
Cool. How they show it, how I wanted to play is what was my choice. And it was fun. I learned so much.
Great.
Yeah. Excellent, Karan. Thanks for that insight. Well, I'd like to ask Preeti to give some practical advice, like a few points, some sort of guidelines for parents, given all the topics that we've discussed, as some sort of a closing wrap up, and then I think we're almost at the fag end of closing the.
I think point number 1 would be first acceptance. Okay, let's accept it's a stressful time. It's an insecure time. It's a new experience for all of us, not just you, me, but world over. We are all learning, but it's going to eventually settle down. So keep the faith. There is a problem. We are figuring out ways to deal with it in the best way that we can, and we are going to figure out ways eventually. So acceptance. 2, work on your first interpersonal relationships at home so that you are better equipped to deal and help your child. 3 would be, make sure that you have a daily routine in terms of waking up time, sleep time, play time, study time, mobile usage. And when you are making these schedules with older kids, I would suggest that you involve them in this, make them ask for their inputs. And once these guidelines are made, there should be absolutely, it should be followed to a T. All family members should be on the same page. It should not be that, each family member bypasses and then this whole thing is going to go for a toss. So make some kind of a daily routine. In this pandemic, it is very important for mental health, emotional health, to keep some kind of discipline too. So you make a set of rules for the family, sit together, involve the child. Household responsibilities, I'm a big champion of this. Children should be involved in regular household activities in whatever, even a 4-year-old can be, asked to help putting back toys in its place or helping put clothes into the, wash bin. So these are all life skills which will help your child later on. So get them involved. Point 4 would be get them involved, in household chores. Neha was talking very aptly about family time. So sit together, talk. Definitely some parents will say that, no, even if he sits, he's not going to open his mouth. It's okay, just sit together. And you start talking. Sometimes it makes a world of difference when you start talking about stuff that you are going through as a parent. And maybe on the 3rd or 4th such family thing, that child also is going to contribute, something. So that family time, very important. Point number 6, I would say, encourage a hobby. It can be anything. It can be gardening, painting, or even maintaining a journal. 7 would be physical activity. Very, very important. Whether it's yoga, walking, aerobics, dancing, whatever, Tai Chi, some physical activity. 8 would be privacy. Neha already spoke about it. Totally appreciate you, Neha, on that point, that you need to give the child some me time, some space. Don't be hovering around the kid all the time. Point number 9, very, very, very important, the power of touch, physical touch. You need to give your child a hug. You need to give your child a pat on the back, just ruffle his or her hair, hold hands. You will be amazed at the power of touch. Most parents tell me that, no, she doesn't like it when I touch her. He doesn't. Trust me, all of us like it. Nothing compares to the power of touch. And every kid, and this I'm telling you with 16 years experience, during the session when I reach out, say to an adolescent who's crying, and I reach out to touch, and initially first session, the child will say like, no, don't hold my hand. I'm fine and I don't want you to hold my hand or whatever. And then on the second or the third session, if the child is crying, and then I say, can I just hold your hand? And the child says, okay, fine. And, I've noticed so many times that on the fifth or the sixth session, the moment the child comes in for therapy, the child stretches out the hand and says, Auntie, we're going to hold hands, right, and have the session. So power of touch is very important. The child is going through a lot. The power of giving your child a hug, a kiss, a pat on the back, holding hands, just putting your hand around the kid's shoulder, very, very important. Point number 10, it's okay to mess up. Okay, we can't be perfect all the time. We are human beings too. Parenting is an ongoing process. Okay, I'm a mental health professional with 16 years of experience. I'm also a mother of a 24-year-old. And if you ask me that, okay, have you perfected it? I will say no. Even yesterday I did something which I feel like, I should not have spoken or reacted that way. And I'm like, okay, next time deal with it. So it's an ongoing process. It's a learning process. Nobody becomes the ideal parent, and we all mess up at times. We all take out our frustrations. We can't be the perfect parent all the time. So cut yourself some slack. It's okay to mess up once in a way. And remember, there is no one size fits all. There is no fixed mantra. There is no one line that I'm going to tell you, which is going to, set this whole parenting thing in place. No, it is an ongoing process. It's a trial and error method. What works for one may not work for the other, but don't give up. And empowering your child to deal with adverse situations, I think, is the best gift any parent can give. Over to you, Rashika.
Well, Preeti, before Rashika just kind of concludes the proceedings, I want to say something interesting. I mean, I spoke about some Vedic times and how education was dealt during the the ancient Indian times, but also from the medieval perspective, right? I have this knowledge to share before I pass this on to Rashika, right? It says it is very vital for a parent to understand the fundamental concept that raising a child is a test which holds them accountable on the day of judgment. And it is actually a recitation from the Holy Book. And it says, and quote, and know that your properties and your children are but a trial, and that God has with him a great reward. So it's a test given to you. I know that it's challenging, and I think it makes it all the more complicated during the pandemic, but there is a great reward that awaits you. So I think I wanted to just, give that medieval perspective as well, in so much, in as much as I gave the Vedic perspective initially about how education should be dealt with. Over to you, Rashika. I'm done. Thank you.
Oh, Rashika,
Can you unmute yourself, I think?
The mute.
Yeah.
Mute.
Yeah.
Sorry, my bad. I got really carried away with this session. I have goosebumps myself. I've been hearing all of you all. Thank you so much for being part of this. Thank you, Preeti. Thank you, Karan. Thanks a lot, Neha. You guys have given so much information. We're receiving amazing feedback and response from all the audience. There's so much more. There were so many more questions, that I'm sure were waiting to be answered. Some were answered during the course of the discussion, but there's so much more, which calls for many more sessions on this topic. We know that this topic is so relevant, and it's too broad a topic to be covered in one session. So we are definitely going to have follow-up sessions on this, and we will keep everyone informed. Thank you, Shravan, for moderating this so well and giving in your perspective. And last but not the least, thank you, audience. Thanks so much for being part of it and for your valuable feedback, for your questions, and for participating. And again, thank you, United Nations Global Compact Network India, SustainEverse, the entire team at SocialAdder Foundation. All of y'all have been, very supportive, and y'all have helped and put this up together. Thank you so much. I'm sorry we've run beyond time. We are 6 minutes over time, but I guess it was worth every second.
Thank you, Tanish and Rashika too. Like to thank you both.
Thank you. Yeah. Thank you, Tanish. Thank you, Rashika. Thank you,
Tanish
Shravan. Thank you.
Tanish has been the backbone. Yes. Thank you, Tanish. And thank you, everyone.
And thank you, Karan. And thank you, Preeti. That was
nice.
Great insights. So much
Absolutely.
learning from
Same
both of
here.
you as well.
Thank you so much, Preeti, Neha,
Yeah.
Shravan, Rashika, and
We shall. Thank you.
God
Thank
bless
you.
Thank you.
and keep spreading the good word. And
Yes.
I think we should kind of do this some other couple of years later to kind of see where all we have grown and what has happened to us. That'll be a nice subject to talk about.
We shall do a
God
follow-up.
bless you all.
Yeah,
Yeah,
definitely.
bless you all. Take care. Take care.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank you,
you.
everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks so much.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
All right. See you, everyone. Yeah.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye, people.